October 1879. A line cabin high in the Missouri hills, the first hard snow already on the ground. A young man stood in the doorway with a rifle leveled at the chest of a man kneeling at the fire, a man he had spent 4 years of his life hunting to kill. "Don't move," the young man said. "I've waited a long time for this." By morning, one of them would be dead. It was not the one you think. This is the story of the night a man came to take a life and learned he owed one instead. Here is the story. The young man's name was Caleb Rourke, and he was 22 years old, and he had been hunting one man since he was 18. 4 years before, his father had been killed in a bank robbery gone wrong in a town called Pleasant Hill. 3 men had gone in, 2 came out. A teller and Caleb's father, who had only been in the bank that morning to lift the mortgage on the family farm, were left dead on the marble floor. The papers printed the names of the robbers they suspected, and at the top of that list, the name everyone in Missouri knew, the name that sold newspapers, was the name Caleb Rourke swore on his father's grave he would put in the ground himself. He gave up everything to do it. He was 18 years old and the man of the family now, and instead he left the farm to his mother and his younger sister, and he went out on the trails with his father's old lever-action rifle and a tintype of a face he had cut from a wanted handbill, folded in his breast pocket like a man carries a picture of someone he loves. He learned to track. He learned to sit quiet in the corners of the wrong kind of saloons and ask the wrong kind of men the right kind of questions without getting himself killed for it. He went hungry. He slept cold. He spent the years a young man is supposed to spend courting a girl and building a life, instead chasing a name across 3 states. And the rage in him did not cool with the years. It hardened, the way green wood hardens, into something that would not bend. And slowly, the way a patient hunter does, he closed the distance. In October of 1879, in a backroom card game in a played-out town, a dying card sharp sold him the last piece of it for the price of a bottle of whiskey. A man matching that face was wintering alone in a line cabin high in the hills, off every trail anybody used, waiting out the snow. Wherever you're watching from, drop it in the comments. I'd like to know how far this one travels. Caleb went up the mountain in the first snow. He left his horse below the tree line and went the last mile on foot, quiet, the way he'd taught himself. And he came up on the cabin at dusk with smoke coming from the chimney and one horse in the lean-to. He waited in the cold until full dark, until he was sure. Then he opened the door soft and stepped in out of the snow and leveled his father's rifle at the back of the man kneeling at the fire. The man did not jump, and he did not cry out. He did not lunge for the gun belt hung on the chair on the far side of the room, well out of his reach, where no careful man who had lived as long as this one had, by being careful, would ever have left it. Except that this man, alone in the high country, with the snow closing the trails behind him, had let his guard down for one single evening, the first in years, and now the cost of it was standing in his doorway with a rifle. He simply went very still, the way an animal goes still, and he kept his hands open and visible at his sides where the boy could see them, and he spoke without turning his head. "There's coffee on the fire," he said. "If you came all this way in the cold, a man can shoot another man and still let him pour a cup first. It won't change anything that comes after." "Don't," Caleb said. His voice shook, and he hated that it shook. "Don't talk easy to me. You don't get to talk easy." "All right," the man said. "Turn around, slow. I want you to look at me when I do it." The man turned, still kneeling, and looked up the barrel of the rifle into the face of the boy holding it. He was older than the handbill. There were years on him the printed face didn't have, but it was him. Caleb had looked at that face every night for 4 years. "Pleasant Hill," Caleb said. 1875, the bank. Something changed in the kneeling man's eyes. "You were there?" he asked, quiet. "My father was there, On the floor when you left. He went in to pay off our farm. He never carried a gun in his life. The man at the fire was quiet a long moment. When he spoke again, the easy tone was gone out of his voice. What was his name? You don't get to know his name. What was his name, son? Rourke, Caleb said, and his finger was white on the trigger. Daniel Rourke, and I'm his boy, and I've come 4 years for this. The kneeling man closed his eyes for a moment, and what crossed his face was not fear. It was something worse, something that looked almost like grief. Daniel Rourke, he said, the teller and one customer. I read it in the paper 3 days after, 200 miles away. He opened his eyes. Son, I was not in that bank. I have done things I'll answer for. That is not one of them. I wasn't within 200 miles of Pleasant Hill that week, and I can't prove it to you, because men like me don't get to prove where they were. They just get their name printed at the top of every list, because their name sells the paper. You came 4 years for a man who wasn't there. Liar, Caleb said, but the rifle wavered, just slightly, because the man had not said it like a man begging for his life. He had said it tired, like a man who had said true things and been disbelieved so many times it hardly mattered anymore. Everybody says they didn't do it. Most everybody does, the man agreed. I can't make you believe me. But before you finish it, I want to tell you one thing, and then you can do what you came to do. Will you let me say one thing? Caleb did not lower the rifle, but he did not fire. Say it. The widow Rourke, the man said, out past Pleasant Hill. Little farm with a red barn and a bad well. 2 children, a girl and a boy who left. The rifle came up hard again. How do you know my mother's farm? Because for 4 years, the man said, somebody's been paying the note on it. The cabin was dead silent except for the snap and settle of the fire. You're lying, Caleb whispered, but it had gone out of him, the certainty draining away like heat out of a room with the door left open. The bank carried us. After Pa died, the bank carried the note. They told my mother they'd carry it until things got easier. Banks don't carry a dead man's note for 4 years out of Christian feeling, son. You're old enough now, and you've seen enough of the world these last 4 years to know that for the truth. The man's voice had gone very gentle, gentler than a man at the wrong end of a rifle has any right to sound. Somebody paid it. Every season, the day it came due, regular as the seasons themselves. Paid it through a lawyer in Kansas City who was instructed never to give a name, so that your mother would believe it was the bank's mercy and keep her pride, and never spend a single night wondering whose charity she was living on. A man read about a bank robbery he did not do. He read that a customer had died on the floor, an ordinary man who'd only come in to pay off his farm. He read that the man left behind a widow and 2 children and a note none of them could carry. And he decided that even if the whole country was going to hang his name over that killing, he could at least make sure the one true and innocent thing about that day, that family, that farm, did not get buried along with everything else. Caleb Rourke stood in the doorway of that cabin with his dead father's rifle leveled at a kneeling man, and he felt the whole shape of 4 years of his life come apart in his hands like the soft folded paper of an old letter. Everything he had built himself on, the certainty, the rage, the single clean purpose that had gotten him up every cold morning for 4 years, was sliding out from under him, and he did not know what he was without it. Why, he said. The word came out cracked, a boy's word. Why would you pay, year after year, for a thing you swear you never did? It makes no sense. A guilty man might. Why would an innocent one? Because my name did it, the man said. Whether my 2 hands were there or not, my name walked into that bank. My name was printed in the paper over your father's body. People read it and believed it, and they were right to, near enough, because I have done things just like it. A man can't always answer for what his name does out in the world without him. But he can do what little is left to do, quiet, where it counts. And he can keep his name off of that too, so it stays a clean thing, and not one more story they pin to a wanted man. For a long time the boy did not move, and the man did not move, and the fire burned down between them. "If I'm wrong," Caleb finally said, "if I put you down and I'm wrong, then you'd be doing to me exactly what you think I did to your father," the man said. "Killing a man over a name. You came up this mountain to be different from the man who killed your pa. So be different." Caleb Rourke lowered the rifle. His arms were shaking. He had carried that gun up at the level for 4 years, and now he could not hold it up another second. He sank down onto the bench by the door, and he put his face in his hands, a boy again, and the man at the fire did not move toward him and did not move toward the gun belt on the chair. He just, after a while, poured 2 cups of coffee and set one on the floor within the boy's reach and left it there. They talked the rest of that night, the way 2 men talk when one of them came to kill the other and found he couldn't. The fire burned low and one of them fed it, and neither of them slept. The man did not touch the gun belt on the chair, and after a while Caleb stopped watching it. Toward dawn, the man told the boy exactly how to check every word of it for himself: the name of the lawyer in Kansas City, the bank in Pleasant Hill, the dates the payments were made, the amounts, things that only the man who had made those payments could possibly know. He gave it all up freely, like a man emptying his pockets to prove he'd stolen nothing. "Go home," the man said, as the light came grey and thin in the cabin's one small window. "Check every word I've told you, down to the last cent. If you find I lied to you, then you know where this cabin is, and I give you my word I won't leave my gun belt across the room the next time you come through that door. But if you find I told you the truth, then go and be your father's son. Go home and marry, and farm that ground he died trying to keep, and raise children on it. And let the name you spent 4 years chasing die quiet up here in the snow, where it belongs, and where it can't cost you the rest of your life too." Caleb Rourke went home, and he checked it. The lawyer in Kansas City, the dates, every single word. It was all true, down to the last season's payment on a little farm with a red barn and a bad well. His mother had never known. She went to her grave believing the bank had been kind. Caleb let her believe it, because some mercies are bigger when nobody knows to thank them. He never went back up the mountain. He married a girl from the next county, and he farmed his father's ground, and he named his first son Daniel after the man who died on the marble floor. And he never told anyone, not his wife, not his children, about the night he climbed a mountain in the snow to kill a man and came down owing him everything instead. Within 3 years, the man in the cabin was dead, shot in the back of his own house, for the reward on his name, by someone who called him a friend. The papers printed the worst of him, the way they always had, the robberies and the killings, some of which he did, and some of which only his name did. They did not print the line cabin in the snow, or the rifle lowered, or the 4 years of quiet payments to a widow who never knew. There was no one to print it. Only one man knew the whole of it, and he kept it locked in his chest for the rest of his long life. His name was Jesse James. To the country, he was the most wanted outlaw alive, guilty of much and blamed for more. But on one cold night, in one cabin in the snow, with a rifle leveled at his heart by a boy who had every right to his rage, he had a chance to be only what the wanted posters said he was, and he chose, instead, to hand that boy back his father and his future and the truth. He could not undo what his name had done, but he could refuse, one more time, to let it take everything. Caleb Rourke lived to be an old man, with grandchildren on the porch of the farm his father had died to keep. And once, only once, near the very end of his life, he told the whole story through. The grave, the 4 years, the rifle, the cabin, the snow, to a grandson old enough to keep it. And when he was done, the boy was quiet a while, and then he asked the old man if he was sorry he hadn't pulled the trigger that night in the cabin. The old man looked out a long time over the fields his family had held on to for 50 years because of one man's quiet mercy. "I went up that mountain," he said at last, "to kill the worst man in America, and I came back down having met one of the best. I've had 60 years to decide which one he really was, and I'll tell you honest, I still don't know. Maybe he was both, maybe most men are. But I know he gave me back my whole life that night, and gave my mother her pride, and asked me for nothing at all in return, not even my silence, though he got that too. Whatever else he was that as well, and the world only ever bothered to remember the other half of him. If this story reached you, do me a favor, pass it on, and subscribe if you haven't yet. There are more of these coming.